Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mandy channel. What we have here is a parole hearing. What's interesting about this, I found the transcripts, is that Judge Marabella was the residing judge that put him away for quite some time. So it's going to be interesting how that goes. I have not yet seen this. This will be the first time, but from reading the court transcripts, which I'll put in the description below, it's a pretty disturbing case. Please do like and subscribe. It really helps the algorithm. But with that, let's jump in.
Okay, Committee on Parole is called back to order. Time is 12:16. Our next case is Mr. Gilbert Stuckey. Mr. Stuckey, would you give me your full name and DOC number?
Full name is Gilbert Scott Stuckey. DOC number is 533494.
Mr. Stuckey, before we get started here, I don't know if you remember me or not, but I was your judge.
Yes, sir. I remember.
And I'm going to give you the opportunity to decide whether or not you want me to sit on this panel. If you would prefer me not to sit on this panel, or whatever I said back then, or whatever you think about me, that's okay. We'll just have to continue this and get another panel member to do it. Okay, to proceed forward, we can do that. So it's your choice.
Okay, let's proceed. I mean, it's good to see you again, so to speak.
All right. Okay. All right. Let me explain our process to you. First, I'm going to read some information into the record, and then the board is going to conduct a parole interview with you. At the end, you'll be allowed to make a brief statement before the board votes. Understand our procedure?
Yes, yes.
This is the matter of Gilbert S Stuckey, DOC number 533494. Date of birth, November 21 of 1959. He's classified as a second felony offender with a parole eligibility date of October the 9th, 2014. He has an adjusted good time date of October the 14th, 2028, and a full term date of October 9th of 2029. He is currently serving a 20-year sentence on the charges of second-degree battery and cruelty to the infirm, having been adjudicated a habitual offender. Is all of that accurate, Mr. Stuckey?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Stuckey, your case has been assigned to me, so I'm going to begin our interview process with you, okay?
Yes, sir.
Tell me a little bit, Mr. Stuckey. First off, how old are you right now?
63, sir.
And how long have you been in prison on these charges?
13 years.
Tell me a little bit about your educational background.
Well, I graduated high school 1977 out in California, Sacramento, California, Adelante High, as a matter of fact. And I also took one semester of night school at Sacramento City College concerning heating and air conditioning at that time. I was working hotel maintenance back then. And that's about my formal education right there.
Tell me about your work history.
Well, I've worked ever since high school. So I started out in the hotel business. I worked Roadway Inn, Holiday Inn, and the Belmont Hotel, as a matter of fact, that was about 10 years. And then I started in the oil field offshore in 1986, I believe it was. And I was out there till 2003, 16 years.
Tell me what happened here with your mother.
Sir, that was another argument that we've had before at that time concerning her drinking. Okay. And I've been worried about it. Let me go back to the beginning. We were an Air Force family, okay, military. We were close. But back in 86, for whatever reason, Dad decided he wanted a divorce from Mom. I still don't know why. But Dad remarried and he moved to Georgia, at Warner Robins Air Force Base. Well, Mom never did. And she never really got over that fact. Okay, she wouldn't go out on a date and save her life or nothing like that. But she was a teacher at Episcopal for a while, English teacher, and they wouldn't renew her contract one year. So she went over to the public school. She wasn't there about a year, and she got scared because one of the students threatened her. This was eighth or ninth grade English. And then she went to work at Macy's there at the old mall. And for whatever reason there, she quit working. But anyway, as time went on, she just couldn't get over the divorce. And she was into the woe is me syndrome, what my sister and I would call it. And she started drinking. And she started drinking more and more. And now the reason it's affected me was in 2003, I got hit with pancreatitis, acute pancreatitis with cirrhosis and hepatitis C all at once. And it almost killed me. I mean, I got seriously sick. I threw my guts up in pain you would not believe. I got down to 86 pounds. They gave me over to hospice. But through God's will and my own, I fought back. And of course, here I am. Now, at this time, I see my mom. She's drinking pretty heavy. And she's going down the same road that I went. I saw what was happening. And I kept trying to get through to her. Mom, you got to lighten up on this. But she wouldn't listen. I mean, what mama wants, mama gets. And that's what the argument was about. But I blew it because I started screaming and raising all kinds of hell. And I was knocking over newspapers. And I had her by the shoulders. Do you understand? And I scared her. I scared the death out of her, which is something I never should have done. I mean, I can hear my dad telling me now, and my uncle for that matter. But that's what happened. That's what it was about. And I'm sorry because I blew it. I really did. I mean, I meant well, but I did not go about it the right way. We tried to talk before, and it was a frustration, and it just overwhelmed me that night. And that's what happened. That's what it was about.
You beat her pretty bad.
Pardon me?
You beat her pretty bad.
Well, like I said, I had her by the shoulders. I was shaking her. And that's all I did as far as I know. So.
Tell me about your drug use.
Well, that's pretty much non-existent anymore. I had fun with that when I was a teenager, but that was it. When I started working out in the oil field, that definitely went by the wayside because of the drug test. And I wasn't about to stand in front of my family and tell them I lost my job for 6 months or more because I took a hit off a joint or something. There was no way. So, but I started drinking beer instead. So as far as the drug goes, beer was my choice of drug. I drank all the time. Not really to drink to get drunk, but eventually I'd get there naturally. And through the years, like I said, it caught up to me. In 2003, my wife died, and that was the stress factor that set that off. And boy, did it hit me. It hit me hard, real hard. I'm still paying for it.
Now, what about your beating of your mother back in 2009 when you were abusing cocaine? Said you were going to come back and kill her. Tell me about that.
No, sir, I didn't say that. And as far as that cocaine went, I remember I was wondering what all the fuss was about that, because I knew some people that had done it and they were losing everything. I just couldn't understand it. So I said, well, let me check this out. So I went out and got some and got caught. Well, so much for that. And that was it. So that's all I got to say about that one. Another bad choice on my part. But
you ever had any sort of mental evaluation?
Well, I've had some here, your basic questions and whatnot.
And have you been treated for anything? You take any kind of medication?
No, there's no need. Mentally, I'm stable or A-OK or however they term that.
That's not necessarily what our records reflect. Got some your answers to your question. I've reviewed them pretty significantly. You have a very high need for antisocial thinking. which means you need some significant treatment. What do you say about that? I've looked at all of your answers that you've given him, that you indicate that you're not the problem. You don't need to be here. Tell me what all of that means.
Well, I'd like to know where this antisocial comes from. I mean, I'm not understanding.
It comes from an evaluation that the department did on you based upon your answers in the needs assessment was done in 2020. All of your answers, all of these things that I'm talking about are your answers.
I'm trying to recall those kind of answers. I'm not sure about that at all. 2020. Was that after I got here?
One of the questions was, I'm not the problem. It does not make sense for me to be here in prison. And you agreed with that. You're not the problem.
I've never heard that. I have no clue to that. I would not say that.
Well, these are your responses. These are your answers.
I can't understand that. I really can't. I have never had mental issues. I have an upbeat attitude. I mean, I have to be. I mean, you have to be positive. You got to think positive to be positive. I've never had to see the psychiatrist here for any reason or anywhere else for that matter. So I'm not quite sure where those answers come from. That's like somebody else. I just don't understand that. That's completely.
Well, you have a pretty serious history of alcohol, drugs, and violence. Now, that's all your mother's fault because she drank what?
No, sir. No, sir. That would be my fault. Like I said, the drugs there, that was a mistake. I tried that. The violence, again, I was angry with my mom. And I used to drink. Yes, I did. But that stuff's poisoned. I couldn't drink now if you had to. I don't want to die. It's poison. I'm not going to go through that again. That was back in 2003. I mean, it's just it's a terrible way to go.
Well, in 2009, you weren't using cocaine when you and your mother got into that fight?
No, sir. No, sir.
Police report that says that is wrong?
After that argument happened, I left. I mean, I left. So it was the next day when I came back, and then they came back, and that's when they arrested me and took me out. I mean,
times have you been on supervision?
One time. I was on probation for that little cocaine. Let's see what's happening and all that.
Did you complete the probation?
I had 2 months left.
And what happened?
Well, that's when I got in trouble with this charge. As a matter of fact, that's with Judge Anderson, and he sends me to finish that up. I went to, I believe it was West Carroll at that time. I did 2 months there and finished that, and then came back to Baton Rouge on this charge because of the bail, the bond.
Denied back in 2018. You remember why you were denied back in?
I imagine because, again, that was right after work release. I thought I was going home, but I see now that's not the case because of the double bill, I believe you call that, or multi-bill. The offense carried 10. Instead, I got 20. So obviously, I had to do more time. Even though I've kept my record as straight as possible, no write-ups, but I had to prove it again. And that's why I'm here now today, sir. Hopefully, in 13 years, like I said, not a single write-up. I'm trying to prove two things. First, that I'm not a bad person. And second, that I take my incarceration seriously. Otherwise, I would not be able to sit here and tell you that.
Which sort of groups have you had dealing with substance abuse and anger?
I took a class on each one of those, good time classes.
When?
I took one when I was at Caldwell. That was a substance abuse. I would have been in, I guess, 2015. the same year, as a matter of fact, yeah, that was the same year Mama passed away. She passed away March 2015, which really, even though we had made up and we've been talking on the phone and letters and cards, it struck me real hard up here because of the fact I was still on this side of the fence, and now she's gone forever. And I miss her still. And the remorse of that day, I remember it quite well. It's hard to describe that kind of pain inside you. But
Mr. Stuckey, what is your plan to stay sober? I know you tell me, oh, I'm not going to drink anymore. I'm not going to do drugs anymore. I'm sick. I can't do all. What is your plan to stay sober?
well, that's easy to do things that doesn't require you to do that. First of all, get back to work. Okay, again, the positive. I'm here to be positive. Now, I do have a sister who needs my help. She just got through fighting cancer, melanoma, the skin cancer, but they had to operate and they took a big piece of her left bicep out to keep it from spreading. So she's kind of handicapped, so to speak. And she's going through a little physical therapy, but she definitely needs some help, both financially and, of course, emotionally, because of the disfigurement.
How are you going to stay sober is my question.
Willpower, nothing to it. Simple. Like I said,
Choice.
that's true. That is a choice. I could go back, but I do not want to die in agony. And if that doesn't convince me or anybody else not to, well, so be it. But I can't see it. It is agony. Like I said, you're puking your guts up, and the pain is off the charts. It's like a 12 on a scale of 1 to 10. And I'm not going through that again. You can't move.
Mr. Stuckey, there are millions of people out there with sicknesses that drink and take drugs every day.
Well, again, that's them. That's their choice. But I choose not to.
All right. What can you tell us about Mr. Stuckey?
Mr. Marabella, he is a proud member. He has no write-ups, and so he stays out of trouble. And the rest of the record speaks for itself.
Thank you. Mr. Stuckey, is there anything you'd like to say before we vote?
Well, I do have again, you was asking me about that. I do have a checklist for when I get out to keep me on track and to prioritize the things I need to do. I made this list so I can keep it straight. Would you like to hear it?
Sure, go ahead. Tell us whatever you like.
The first thing first, of course, is to get some income coming in, okay, which will initially be through Social Security, but afterwards I'll be able to go back to work where I was when I was at work release. I did well enough there that they gave me an open standing invitation to come on back, and they'll hire me on it. Full benefits and full pay and everything. I survived the Christmas layoffs and everything. 2 years I busted my tail for them. I did what they told me to do, and the rest didn't want to do, but I did it. I hung in there. That's what I do. Work, eat, sleep. That's what I was here for. But anyway, to get on with that. Now, second is to get my driver's license back, and of course, purchase a vehicle with insurance so I can start getting around, obviously, there. And the third, of course, depending on where I end up, I got to start purchasing furniture and pots and pans and plateware and silverware and cookware. And as needed, depending. And of course, go grocery shopping. Maybe put a little smiley face around that one. Clothing is needed, and telephone and internet if necessary. Now, and all the while this, I'll be visiting with my sister and helping her, especially once I get mobile. You know, I mean, I'm the big brother, and I need to look out for my little sister. I mean, that's what brothers are supposed to do. And she needs me now more than ever. And she's been with me through this. And we both kind of, but her being in the physical shape that she is, she needs a helping hand, big time. And I'll do anything I need to do to help her out, whether it be a place to live or financially or what have you, emotionally for sure. I can understand But anyway, that's my checklist to get me started, so I don't get sidetracked. And well, there you go. And I hope I've shown, like I say, 13 years, it hasn't been easy. There's nothing about jail easy. So,
Okay, thank you. Panel ready to vote?
Yes,
Mr. Roche, I'm going to ask you to vote first.
Mr. Stuckey,
yes,
I've listened to your interview intently. I've read all the information in your packet. Especially, I read your Tiger needs assessment questionnaire. And the answers that you gave on that questionnaire is a major concern to me. You showed no remorse. You showed no responsibility for your actions. You actually beat your 75-year-old mother to the point that she had to be taken to the hospital. You have a history of violence. It is domestic abuse. You have law enforcement opposition. You have a poor supervision history. You were revoked in 2013. You have an extensive criminal background. You've been arrested 10 times. And I think you need an additional anger management programs. Even though you've taken anger management, I think you need to take additional programs in anger management and victim awareness. For those reasons, I'm going to deny your request today.
Thank you, Mr. Roche. Ms. Watts?
Mr. Gilbert,
yes, ma'am.
I just want to encourage you to just continue to process all, you had a lot of baggage, as we say.
Yes,
And you got a lot of bags. You got a lot of bags. And the questions that Mr. Mirabella was speaking to you about, it was something you did in February of 22, and the answers were yes and no. Yes and no. Say that stuff to her, but that was your answer to the questions. Maybe that's why you don't remember. It would behoove you the next time that you go and take a test, when you take your time and really process, the question and answer it. Because that's what, because it was just yes or no. And
Okay.
and your yeses and your no, just very concerning. It's very, very concerning. And I just want you to hear, for me, it's just not yet. I'm not saying no, but I'm just saying not yet. I can see you getting out, but you want to be able to stay out.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of baggage with your mom. You know, to take some ownership of your choices and how you dealt with even her choices. So today, my vote is to deny, really for the reasons I already stated on the record. But again, I want to encourage you to reapply and just go ahead and try to, talk to somebody in mental health and see, can they help you process some things? Best wishes to
Mr. Stuckey, you have 2 votes to deny. I think everyone here has encouraged you to continue to work hard. I think you need to do some more reflection inside and accept a little more responsibility for what you did. Continue to do the thing you're doing. As Ms. Wise says, not today, but perhaps the next time. So good luck to you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the help.
12:39. Gordon, thank you very much for all your help.
Thank y'all. Good seeing all 3 of y'all. Y'all have a good day.
get to you. All right. And to your staff.
All right, so let's unpack that. That was just an interesting hearing. There were times when I found myself feeling bad for the guy. There were times when he made me laugh. There was almost something like innocent and charming about him. I know that's weird to say because he's really creepy, but really creepy. But it was just something about, I guess it was that little list that he pulled out of his pocket. It's like he's like a little kid. it's really like he's a little kid, and he's antisocial behavior, but is he like, does he have a low IQ? Like, what else is it that listening to him talk about even his parents' divorce, it was like fresh in his head. It was like raw. And yeah, you must feel bad for him. Wow, this thing just doesn't want to cooperate with me at all. So I can pull up the so let's unpack that. 63 years old, 13 years. So yeah, it was interesting how it started. Mr. Marybella's like, well, I was your court judge, so if you want to pass this on, and he's like, well, it's good to see you again, I guess. So yeah, we'll read the details, and it's not fun. It's really not. So the defendant, Gilbert Scott Stuckey, was charged. And the reason why we have this again is he appealed the ruling. And when they appeal, we get the stuff. For whatever reason, this shows up on the internet, while if they just settle, it just doesn't seem to show up. So the facts: the victim, Mary Frances, his mother, Stuckey, is the mother of the defendant and a retired English teacher. On October 7, 2009, the defendant was living with her in her apartment. The victim testified that the defendant liked to do cooking at the apartment and didn't like the victim to mess with it. I can actually, now seeing him talk, I can see this. Like, I can see where he would say that. So he wanted to do the cooking and didn't want anyone to mess with it. And she stated that my job was to come and tell him when to turn the timer off. On October 7, 2009, the defendant was cooking chicken and the timer went off. The victim went to the defendant's bedroom, so his mom went to his bedroom. He's living with her, right? And told her, hey, the timer had gone off. Approximately 10 or 15 minutes later, the defendant exited his room and asked about the timer. When the victim responded that she had already told him it had gone off, the defendant became angry, took the chicken out of the oven, slammed the chicken down on the counter, and he may have burnt his hands doing so. And the victim stated that the defendant then yanked her out of her chair. She's 75 years old, and threw her on the sharp edge of the pantry where she kept the canned goods. The defendant called the victim the B word, they spell it out, and cursed her. He also threw her into the kitchen cabinets while she screamed, stop, stop, stop. She's 75. It's his own mother. The victim testified that after he had thrown me into the cabinet, he had me on the floor and he was pounding my head into the kitchen floor. The victim stated the defendant then picked up a serrated kitchen knife and cut each of her hands. After the defendant went to his bedroom, the victim hid behind a chair and called 911. So then he stormed off to his bedroom. Like a little. The defendant came out of his room and saw the victim, and he stated, "What are you doing?" B word. She told him that she had called 911, and he approached the patio door to exit. On his way out, he turned to the victim and stated, "I'll be back to kill you." That's scary stuff, dude. You know that she was really scared when she did everything to get him locked up. 75 years old. She would then have to be living alone, living with this reality. Her husband left her. Now she's putting her son in prison, but she was that afraid for her life. The victim indicated the prior incident that she did not have any issues with falling or keeping. All right, so he appealed and basically said that he denied everything and said that she was an alcoholic and that she had fallen, and that was part of his appeal. And then they basically said, like, no, that's just not true. And that there was basically sufficient enough evidence, and he was denied his appeal. You know, you can't be that bright when the person listening to your parole hearing was the judge of your case. He knew all the facts, and then this guy gets up here and just lies, He said, what did he say? He pushed her. It's like, dude, the judge that sentenced you to 20 years, yeah, it's the same guy. It's the same guy. You know, someone like this really, you would think, just needs to stay locked up. It's sad, but you know, he's antisocial. He's just not playing with the full deck and violent, and you can't risk having someone like that out in the streets. It's that would be terrifying. It was an interesting case. He pulls out the checklist: get income, Social Security to start, then a job, get a driver's license, purchase a vehicle with insurance. I'm glad he had that part down. Purchase furniture, pots, pants, and cookware. I think, is it this when everyone started laughing? I smiled. It was like grocery shopping with a smiley face. Oh, that's when we cracked up. He's like, and I put a smiley face there. He must be like he's like stuck as a little boy. Clothing, telephone, and internet if needed. You know, the story about the grandmother, did they say that, well, his mother, I'm sorry, that she was threatened, so she left her job as a teacher. My grandmother, she would be 93 if she was still alive. She passed away about 6-7 years ago. She was a teacher in Groton, Connecticut. She had a master's degree, which was quite something in those days, I think, to accomplish that. And you know, when she was, I guess would have been in, like, I guess the 50s, and one of her students, she had flunked a student. So these were teenagers, I think, maybe 15. And the student was really upset that he failed a grade because he had to think it was going to hold him back. And he came to school with a handgun. He like showed up, you know, the little glass by the door, and he like flashed it. That was her last day as a teacher. I think she had 2 more years to get like her full pension. My grandfather still tells me this story. He's 93 and I'm still an amazing guy. Korean War vet, butcher. He was a butcher. Big butcher hands. And but he couldn't understand 2 more years to get the full pension. But she that was it. She couldn't go back. That stuff is real. It's scary. But yeah, you can't beat your 70-year-old mother to that point, and it's helpful for us to see there are certain people that just need to be institutionalized. Maybe it's not a prison, maybe it's a mental ward, maybe it's somewhere else. You know, he has nothing on his record, right? Like he hasn't done anything wrong while locked up, but maybe prison's not the right place. But definitely it'd be scary to have him in the public, in my opinion. I'm going to include this link for the case and everything else. With that, I'll let you go. I want to hear your thoughts too and comments. And, yep, see you later.